Welcome to Caribbean Short Story Time. I'm Don Mayers. And the first short story I'm going to read for you today is called How Mongoose Got His Name. Once upon a time on a little island in the Eastern Caribbean, there lived an animal that was feared by all. At that time, no one knew his name. This was long before blackbird had teeth and long before lizards flew. Even the natives were scared of him and dared not venture outside at night. One morning the animal got up and was feeling hungry. He said to himself after yawning, "Today I feel like eating chicken licking." So the animal got up, ran off, and in no time was back with the chicken in his mouth. Chicken struggled, but she was no match for this animal. Before long, the animal was chomping on the last leg of the chicken. He was full now and decided to take a nap. Before long, it was morning again. The animal got up, stretched, yawned, and said, "Ah boy, today I feel like eating turkey lurkey." So the animal got up, ran off, and in no time came back with the turkey in his mouth. Turkey struggled, but he was no match for this animal. In a few minutes, the animal had rustled Turkey to the ground, giving him a deadly blow to the neck. He returned to his hole in the ground later that day with his lunch. That day he ate to his heart's content. The next day the animal got up, stretched, yawned, and then said, "Ah boy, today I feel like eating a snake for my snack." So the animal got up and ran off deep into the woods. Apart from this animal, Snake was the most feared. He could break your neck with one squeeze. For a while he fought with the animal, but he could not get his claws around it, nor could he deliver his deadly poison. The animal was too quick. With a deadly bite to its head, the animal finally silenced Snake. Snake was big and the animal was happy. He would have food to last him for an entire week. That week he stayed in his hole and ate until he was as big as an elephant. All he did was sleep and eat. He thought that life was great. Whatever he wanted, he simply took. He saw himself as a king of the jungle. The following morning he got up and said to himself, "Ah boy, today is a day for change. I'm tired of eating chicken, turkey, and snake. I want something else to eat." So off he went to find something new to eat. The island was filled with lots of animal life and plant life. From time to time, native Indians will sail along the island coast fishing, and sometimes they will come ashore. They often brought their own domestic animals like sheep, ducks, geese, and other animals. On hearing the commotion, the animal positioned himself where he could see them, but they could not see him. What he saw made him happy. He smiled to himself and said, "Tonight, I'm going to have something else on my menu." The animal waited patiently until it was dark. He knew the natives would be fast asleep. It was then that he would make his move. He then said to himself, "Ah boy, tonight I feel like eating ducky lucky." Before long he came back to his hole with a delicious duck in his mouth. The duck was no match for the mighty strength of this animal. He threw the duck to the ground and with one bite he finished him off. The animal was not contented. So after licking his chops, the greedy animal again went back to the camp of the natives. As he stood there peering through the bushes, his eyes caught hold of a succulent sheep. "Yum yum," he thought to himself. "I have never eaten sheep before." He sat and waited patiently for the right time to attack. He waited until it was still and quiet, and with lightning precision he ran and grabbed hold of the sheep. "Blah, blah," bellowed out the sheep. "What have I ever done to you?" The animal was in no mood for talking, and with one deadly bite, he silenced the sheep. For 2 days the animal was full. All he did was eat and sleep. But the animal had a hearty appetite, and very soon he was on the prowl again. The natives were scared because all their efforts at trapping this animal were futile. That night, the animal again waited in the bushes with a smile on his face. As he looked through the bushes, he realized that the natives were well asleep. Outside their wooden house was a large goose. The animal thought to himself, "Tonight I will have Goosey Lucy for supper." With lightning bolt speed, he dashed into the village, heading in Goose's direction. But Goose had some of the best eyes in the jungle. He had seen the animal in the bushes for a long time now. So when the animal darted at him, he was well prepared. He moved out of the way and then caught the animal in his beak. This commotion woke the entire village. The animal now was blue vexed and vented his anger. "Man Goose! Man Goose! Man Goose! Let me go! Man Goose! Man Goose! Please put me down!" Goose made him promise to leave the island, which he agreed to. As soon as he was released by Goose, he dashed through the bushes and scurried into his hole. Of course, he did not leave the island, nor did he change his ways. He is still as sly as ever. But from that night onwards, he was known as Mongoose. It was given to him by the natives who heard his cries for help. All the animals heard his cries as well, and they all got to know his name. That is why today in the islands when people say a mongoose, they always say, "Sly mongoose, even the dog know your name." This next short story is called Everything Happens in Jacko Maylene. Jacko was 11 years old when his mother died. His father lived in North America. Many said that he went up there to cut canes but never came back. The only person left to take care of Jacko was his grandmother Maylene. She had just retired from working all her days in the crop at Halton Plantation. She was about 73 years of age. She walked erect and could do pretty much the same thing she did 20 years ago. She was not too keen on keeping Jacko and was seriously contemplating sending him to the almshouse in a nearby district. She, however, decided against this because she had always vowed never to let her direct or indirect offspring suffer. So with much reluctance, she took in Jacko. Over the years, Maylene was saving her money. From a girl, she always wanted to go to Trinidad to visit her family in San Fernando. Her grandfather left Trinidad as a young man in search of work and met a beautiful girl called Ayanti. He never returned to Trinidad, but settled in Barbados. Maylene vowed that before she died, she will take a trip back to the land of her true birth. Taking care of Jacko would spoil her plans and surely deplete her savings. She took care of him, but took out her frustration on him. She licked him regularly with a coconut broom and sometimes with a cuckoo stick. She always told him that he was just like his useless father who ran off and left her daughter. She blamed Jacko's father for her daughter's death. It had become very apparent to the villagers that she was seeking revenge on her father through his son. Jacko was the spitting image of his father, and maybe that was why Maylene treated him so. When Jacko had reached 13 years, Maylene took him out of school and told him that he had to work to help to make ends meet. She was always complaining and fretting that she had very little money left from her savings. Jacko had liked school a lot and was doing fairly well in school, but like many boys his age, going to school after 13 years meant starvation. He started working at Halton Plantation at age 14 for $1 a week. By the end of the week, his young bones were tired. Cutting canes was not a job for a boy, and soon he fell ill. He was not eating right, nor was he getting enough rest. Maylene pretended that she cared, but she wanted Jacko to work himself to death. She complained that life was not fair. Her only chance of a little happiness was blown away when her daughter died and left Jacko. She wanted so bad to go to Trinidad before she died. Jacko was not a person to quit. So soon after his recovery, he went back to work at the plantation the following year, working for the same $1. By now he was 15 years and was looking more like his father, both in build and in facial features. His father Othniel Jackman was one of the strongest men who ever lived in Halton Village. His great-grandfather was a Mandingo slave from Africa. He was an expert at cutting canes, and some village folks say that they saw him lift a huge boulder that was blocking the path to Mr. Halton's plantation house. Jacko was everything like his father. Though Maylene did not feed him properly, his good looks, handsome features, and sturdy build caught the eyes of Mr. Halton's Caucasian daughter. In those days, relationships between whites, particularly female whites, and black farm workers were unheard of. If Mr. Halton found out, not only could Jacko lose his job, but Maylene could lose the house spot she was renting from Mr. Halton. In fact, all the land in the village was owned by Mr. Halton. The villagers continued to live there once they worked on a plantation or allowed their children to do so. Another ground for eviction was doing something to anger Mr. Halton. I remember when Easy Boy kicked Mr. Halton's donkey when it would not move. Next morning, Easy Boy and his family had to take down their house and leave the village. Stealing from the plantation and cursing the overseer or Mr. Halton were also reasons why some people had to leave the village. The relationship between Jacko and the planter's daughter continued for 4 months. Some said that when Mr. Halton went in for lunch, Jacko met secretly with Mary Ann in the banana patch. Beatrice Allen, a domestic on the plantation, knew what was going on and planned to inform Mr. Halton. Beatrice was an enemy of Maylene for years. When Maylene and her were much younger, it is believed that Maylene gave Boy Cullimore a plate of food that made him stick to her side until he died. Interestingly enough, Boy Cullimore was supposed to have been married to Beatrice the next day. After he ate the plate of food, Beatrice never forgave her and vowed one day to seek revenge. When the opportunity presented itself, she jumped at it. Maylene was not the best looking of women, nor did she have much for shape. Beatrice, on the other hand, was the talk of the district and the envy of the women living there. And even though she had gone on in years, many men, young and old, still found her attractive and sexy. Many people found it strange when Boy Cullimore, or Boy as he was frequently called, moved in with Maylene. Beatrice wanted revenge. She knew that when Mr. Halton found out about his beautiful, innocent white daughter being in the hands of a greasy black farm boy, she knew that Maylene would have to pack her bags and go. That Sunday morning, Mr. Halton drove down to the village. He was cursing loudly. Even the plea from the local priest who was conducting Sunday morning service went unnoticed. In fact, it was said that on that day he even cursed the priest and threatened to get the church moved from off his land. Of course, this commotion ended church immediately, and the villagers came out in their numbers to see what had ticked Mr. Halton off. He pulled his shotgun from his Bedford truck and kept asking for that dirty nigger boy called Jacko. Many of the villagers ran back in their houses that morning when they saw Mr. Halton with his gun. They knew that he had killed before and never was arrested. The police commissioner was a good friend of his and was married to his sister. Even though Maylene and Jacko could not get along, Maylene hid him in a secret cave in a hill in the back of their house. Halton searched and searched, but he could not find Jacko anywhere. Even though Maylene was scared, she knew family came first. She never told Mr. Halton where Jacko was hiding, despite his threats to kill her. Unfortunately for Maylene, though, Mr. Halton told her that come Monday the next day, he wanted her off his property. Maylene pleaded and begged, but the planter did not budge. As he walked off, he said that if he ever saw Jacko anywhere on his property again, he would kill him. The village folk knew already why Mr. Halton behaved the way he did. They knew that Jacko and Mary Ann were involved, but they knew what would happen if Mr. Halton found out. Some would warn Jacko about the dangers in what he was doing, but most folks never saw it as their business. Beatrice, on the other hand, was always in people's affairs. Saturday night she was seen coming from Mr. Halton's plantation, although Saturday was her day off. The village rumor had it that whenever Mr. Horton's wife went back to England to visit her family, Beatrice would come in and fill the void. Monday morning, Jacko and Maylene dismantled their little house and loaded it on Magpie's truck. That morning, she cursed Jacko, blaming him for her predicament. There was even talk that blows were shared as Magpie drove them to her sister's house in the city. She made it plain that Jacko was not welcome at her sister's house and was not to touch a board from her house. What happened next is still with me today. As Maylene was climbing down from the truck, she missed her step, fell, and struck her head on a rock. Blood gushed that day like an overflowing river. That day she was knocked unconscious. She lingered for 2 days at her sister's house, but soon succumbed to her injuries. That same day she fell, Jacko stuck his hand in her breast and pulled out all her savings. He paid Magpie 11 pence for his troubles and lifted Maylene inside her sister's house. By the time the doctor arrived the next day, there was nothing more that he could do for Maylene. She had lost too much blood. Jacko stayed on the day after her death, but disappeared pretty much like how his father had disappeared a couple years back. The cost of burying Maylene was undertaken by her sister, who had no choice but to bury her. In those days, government did not help. Today, rumor has it that Jacko gave her a little nudge out of the truck. Another school of rumor thought say that she was half blind and could not see the step. Jacko, on the other hand, it is believed went to England with Marianne, where Mr. Horton sent her back to England. She too disappeared in England without a trace after arriving in London. Certain villagers who traveled to town said that they had seen them holding hands on a number of occasions. As for Mr. Horton, he died a lonely man when his wife left him after successive failures of his sugar crops. He was forced to sell his property to cut his losses. The people of the village saved their money, and when the plantation was up for sale, bought the plot of land they lived on. Today the village is no longer called Horton, but Jacko Maylene Village, after Jacko and Maylene. According to village lore, Jacko took the money and gave it to Magpie to distribute it evenly among the villagers. This was the money that they used to purchase their house plots. It is believed that Maylene had saved over $10,000.
The story is called Ozzy's Money Tree. Once upon a time, there lived a young boy by the name of Ozzy. He lived with his mother named Bismarck. His father died when he was just 3 years old. Life was hard for him in Greece and St. George. His mother was very poor, and Sundays they went without food. The only thing they had of worth was one black Betty sheep. His mother did not want to sell it yet, but was waiting until it was fat and plump. One day, the cupboard was bare. There was nothing at all to eat. Ozzy's mother could wait no longer. She gave him orders to take the sheep to the market and sell it to the butcher's shop. Ozzy did what his mother asked. He took the black Betty sheep and headed down to town. On his way, he met Too Smart. Too Smart showed Ozzy a magical coin and told him that when he planted, this coin will grow into a money tree that bear all manner of paper notes. He told Ozzy that he will give him the coin, but he needed the sheep in exchange for it. Ozzy thought long and hard. He remembered what his mother had said about taking the sheep to the market. On the other hand, he thought of the riches that will come his way when his dream was torn. The temptation was too great for Ozzy. Without thinking things through, he parted company with his black Betty sheep. Ozzy's mother was shocked to see him back so early. With elation, he told his mother what he had done. Her smile turned into anger. There was fire in her eyes. Ozzy did not stay around to get the beating that his mother had for him. As soon as she reached for the coconut broom, Ozzy darted out of the house. He could hear the cursing and swearing in the distance. The last thing he heard her say was that he was an idiot for thinking that a coin would go. Ozzy immediately set out for his garden with his magical coin. "Someday I will be rich," he said to himself. "My family will be never poor again." He planted the magical coin and watered it, too scared to sleep in the house that night. Ozzy slept in the sheep's pen. It was too scared of what his mother would do if she caught him. For that entire week, Ozzy watered his seed coin. At the end of the week, he saw nothing. He started to worry and doubt whether the tree was indeed a money tree. As he stood there watering, two Smart suddenly appeared from out of nowhere. Smart offered him a bag of cow dung to fertilize it. Too Smart to suggest to him that the reason the coin was not growing was because it needed fertilizing. While Ozzy slept that night, Too Smart bought a young plant he found on the roadside and planted it exactly where Ozzy had put the coin. The next morning, Ozzy got up. He was very happy. Finally, he was on the road to fame and fortune. Even his mother started to believe him, but she said that she will have to see a paper note to be fully converted. So Ozzy continued to water the tree. Weeks and months passed, but still there were no paper notes. Ozzy thought that he had been hoodwinked by Too Smart. Then, from out of nowhere, as if by magic, Too Smart appeared and told Ozzy that by tomorrow the tree shall bear a fruit. That night, when Ozzy slept, Too Smart got some glue and a $1 paper note and stuck it to one of the stems on the tree. When Ozzy got up that morning, he saw the money and the tree. He was high in spirits. His mother too. She was fully converted. Ozzy only concerned there was only one paper note. Strangely enough, Too Smart appeared again in Ozzy's garden and told him not to worry. He managed to convince Ozzy that the money trees only bear one note the first year, but after that they bear 5, 10, and 20 and $100 notes. Ozzy continued to water his tree all into the following year. While all this was going on, people from neighborhood villages made mockery of Ozzy and his money tree. They called him idiot, stupid, foolish, and even names that are too horrible to mention. He became the laughing stock of the entire parish. The next year came. In a hurry, Ozzy was hoping for a good harvest. On January the 1st, Ozzy got up and darted outside to reap the fruits of his hard work. The tree now had gotten very tall and stood majestically over all the other trees in Ozzy's garden. However, there was no bountiful harvest. In fact, there were not even a single paper note. Ozzy now realized that he was outsmarted by Too Smart. His dejection grew into anger, and he ran inside for his cutlass and and started to cut the tree down. But as he cut, he heard a voice saying, "What have I ever done to you that you are hurting me so?" Ozzy realized that the tree was talking to him, or at least he thought that he was the case. The tree then told him that if he brought him bread and money for 1 week, he will produce an abundance of nuts. Ozzy really believed that the tree spoke to him. He did exactly what it asked. For that entire week, Ozzy bought money and bread and left it under the tree. Saturday came and Ozzy rushed outside, but again there were no nuts to pick. Ozzy got angrier, and again he started to chop the tree down. Again he heard a voice beginning to stop him. It was at this time that Ozzy remembered something that his grandfather had taught him. He realized that the tree was a man tree and not a woman tree. His grandfather had told him that man trees don't ever bear fruits because they were infertile. If that was the case, thought Ozzy to himself, this tree would never bear a single nut. With this in mind, he reached for his cutlass and started cutting the tree until it came crashing down. As it was falling, Ozzy could hear a voice like someone crying for help. The next day, Ozzy thought to smart with bandage around his head, a plaster on his foot, a cut on his right hand. Ozzy wondered what had happened to him, but was more concerned about the fact that Smart had given a male magical coin instead of a female magical coin. Smart grinned to himself, wondering when Ozzy Moore will ever get some common sense. Smart said that he did not have any more female magical coins, but his cousin Tree Smart had some and he will let him bring one for you the next week. The fortunes of Ozzy and his mother changed when a woodcutter passed by one day and saw that the tree was good for wood. He paid Mavis Moore $1,000 for the wood and went his happy way. Ozzy Moore, although very old now, still believes in magical coins, money trees that talk, and that trees that can eat bread and drink moby.
If you like the Nancy stories, here is one for you. This one is called How Snake Lost His Wings. There was a time long ago when snakes flew. This was long before the Africans came to the islands as slaves. It was when mongoose ruled the island forests and when rivers and falls ran through the islands. Of all the animals, Snake was the most cunning and beautiful. He was the envy of the forest. This was because he had a pair of wings which glittered with the colors of the rainbow when the sun shone upon them. When he was tired of slithering, he usually took to the skies. Snake was very proud of his beauty and often boasted about the way he looked. He was hated by many of the jungle folk, and from time to time, someone hatched a plot to take his wings away from him. One day, Snake took to the skies. As he looked down, he said to himself, "There is none like me in the entire world. I am the most beautiful creature there ever was, and ever will be." To commemorate this, he built a throne for himself in the midst of the rainbow, and proclaimed himself King of the Skies. He was indeed a beautiful creature. His wingspan stretched about 8 feet in both directions. The wings were feathered, and in the sun they glistened like colored crystals. The wings, though attached to his back, could be taken off. A According to forest lore, Snake took off his wings every new moon and took them to the River Isle to wash them. Eagle was one of the few wingless creatures that lived in the islands. He was a large bird, but could not fly because he had no wings. Every day he would glance up at the sky and wonder what it would be like to soar in the sky like Snake. Hawk, parrot, and albatross constantly teased him about his inability to fly. One day he came up with a number of ideas to steal Snake's wings. At first he tried to steal them by the River Isle when they came off Snake's back, but Snake did not let his wings out of his sight. Poor Eagle could not get his hands on Snake's wings. Every time he tried, he always failed. Eagle even attempted to build a ladder that would take him to Snake's throne in the sky. His plan was to steal the wings while Snake slept. The ladder was not strong enough, and as soon as Eagle was approaching the top, it collapsed. Even this great fall did not deter Eagle. He kept plotting and scheming, hoping someday to get his talons on Snake's wings. In a last-ditch effort to steal the wings, he made his way deep into the island forest in search of Anansi. If anyone could trick Snake, it was Anansi. Legend had it that a spider by the name of Anansi lived deep in the uttermost parts of the forest. He was very cunning, and in the past had stole crocodiles' looks, stretched giraffe's neck, and had painted sheep's belly black. Anansi was not seen or heard from in a long time. If he was still alive, he would have had to be very old. After days of traveling, using the forest sage's map as a guide, he finally came upon the spider's house. "Anansi, Anansi!" shouted Eagle. "I need your help. I will do anything." As if by some magical spell, Anansi appeared in front of Eagle. He was, however, a shadow of what he used to be. Even Eagle had second thoughts about his ability to outsmart Snake and steal his wings. He had gotten old and walked with a limp. He looked as though he could die any second now. "What can I do to help you?" asked Anansi. Snake explained his predicament to Anansi, who said that he had no problem in helping, but that he wanted something in exchange. The necklace of eternal life that Eagle wore was what caught Anansi's eyes. Anansi wanted his youth and strength back. It was literally handed to him on a silver platter that day. Eagle gave up his necklace that was in his family from since the beginning of time, and he became mortal like all the rest of the creatures. He thought flying was more important. As for Anansi, he was the happiest creature in the forest that day. To get Snake's wings, Anansi disguised a bamboo to look like a snake. He made Eagle drag it out into a clearing where Snake could see it from the sky. He made some glass wings and painted them with colors that were not even in the rainbow. These wings were larger than Snake's, and he lit 2 small fires under each wing to make it appear as though the wings lit up themselves. The trap was set. All Snake had to do was to take the bait. Very soon after that, Snake with his curious self swooped down to take a look. Anansi had hidden himself in the double part of the bamboo and was well concealed from Snake. When Snake smoked a snake, he was really talking to Anansi. "How dull your feathers are," said the spider to the snake. "Your wings are so tiny," laughed Anansi. "You need the sun to make your wings glitter, but my wings have lights in them." Snake felt ashamed and said he wished he had a pair of wings like the other snake. Anansi told him that he could borrow his for just a short while to see how they felt. He asked Snake to let him look after his while he tried his out. As soon as Snake rested them on the ground, Eagle jumped in, took them up, and soared to the skies. Anansi jumped out the bamboo, now being given a new lease on life. As he jumped out, the wings he had made so brilliantly fell to pieces. "You stupid snake," he cackled. "If you were only satisfied with the way you were made, you will not be in this position now. That is why from now on you will always crawl on your belly." Snake went away sorrowful. At the same time, Eagle swooped down with a big smile on his face. "You foolish snake," he shouted. "Look at me now! And Anansi then turned to the eagle and said, "You are the most stupid of all the creatures I have ever known. You had eternal life with this necklace, and you gave it up just for a pair of wings that will last only for a time. I, on the other hand, have gotten my youth back and will live forever." Anansi waddled back through the forest, spreading his web like when he was young. This was too easy, thought to himself. This was like taking flies from a baby lizard. Today snakes still crawl on their bellies. Eagles can soar high in the sky, but they grow old and die. As for Anansi, he still lives deep in the island forest, still looking for some unsuspecting creature to trick again.